Welcome back. It's Allison Turner. I want to talk today about gaining leadership skills and confidence through Toastmasters. So, most people have heard of Toastmasters. I would say not everyone has, though, which is kind of unbelievable to me, but I probably hadn't really heard about it and what it is till a couple of years ago or a few years ago. So, today I want to jump on here and just share a little bit about my story in Toastmasters and how it's helped me even do these videos. So if you want to move forward in business, if you want to gain more confidence, if you want to do more videos, if you want to launch your own podcast and you're terrified of being on camera, because I was that person. I was exactly that that person. I should probably go and pull the video I did, I don't know how many years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, that literally my fiance had to edit and put a bunch of, I was reading off a teleprompter and he had to edit and put a bunch of like special effects and other stuff in there. So I wasn't actually visible on the screen that much. That's how good I was on video. And I'm not saying I'm perfect today. By no means am I saying I'm perfect, but I am a whole heck of a lot better than I was back then. So I want to share a little bit about that. Excuse my email going off over here. And then also share someone else's story about Toastmasters. And it's just like a 2-minute clip, comes from one of my podcasts. But she's a 3-time distinguished Toastmaster. So anyone that is a Toastmaster out there, you know what that means. That's a big deal. So I want to share a little bit about my experience and kind of why I joined Toastmasters. So when I joined, I actually heard about it a few years ago, and there's actually one that meets at the Delray Chamber. This is pre-pandemic, and there's one that meets at the Delray Chamber, which is just like a few blocks from my house. So easy to get to, like no excuses, anything like that. But I had zero, I was like, oh, I don't need Toastmasters. Like, why would I ever do Toastmasters? I'm good the way I am. No interest. I started my podcast in 2020, and it was just audio only. It was only me. It was about 10 minutes, give or take a couple minutes. And that's what I drove everything off of, 10 minutes. I did about 5 or 6 episodes. It took me forever to do it. I would come in on like a Sunday. I would have like a script. I would do, record it with a microphone and, decent camera. And then I would add my little intro and outro and then publish it, right? So, but the 10 minutes, I had to, kind of write out the script, and then to do all the editing, it ended up taking a couple hours. Fast forward to last year, 2022, I decided, this is after I joined Toastmasters. I joined Toastmasters in fall of 2021. Sorry for jumping around a little bit, guys. But I joined in fall of 2021, and at that point, I joined because I wanted to speak. All of a sudden, I shouldn't say all of a sudden, but it developed over time that I wanted to be a public speaker. Okay, well, I, again, was terrified of the whole camera thing. So you know what? Let me find a Toastmasters group. So I did that in the middle of the pandemic. I joined a virtual Toastmasters group. It met in Boynton. I actually checked out a couple. The one I joined is Sailfish Toastmasters, which is headquartered in Boynton Beach. We are currently hybrid. So even if you're in a different part of the country, you could still check out our group. We have somebody in North Carolina that is part of our group and is there regularly. So, or you can go in person in Boynton. So I just want to jump in and talk a little bit about the benefits I received and then how that translates to where I am today, and then share the video clip of my good friend Cece. So, number one, improved communication skills. So Toastmasters has a couple of different components. One is speeches. Usually they're 5 to 7 minutes. Some are a few minutes, some are like 10 to 15, but those are like the higher level speeches. 5 to 7 minutes, and you have a specific theme depending on where you are in your path, and you sign up for this path and you kind of follow the path. Okay. So that's one thing. So I've done a fair amount of speeches because I hit the ground running. Once I set the intention to join a group, as soon as I joined, I started doing roles. I started, sharing my message, and you can craft a lot of them with your message and your personal experience. So if you want to be a public speaker, it's a great opportunity to really hone in on some of those skills. So my communication skills have gotten a whole lot better. And then the other part, actually another part of Toastmasters is kind of improvisational speaking. So we have 1 to 2 minutes. We get kind of a theme, but the person that's table topics master asks you a question around that theme. You don't know what the question's going to be, and you don't know who he or she is calling on until the question's out there. And then you have to answer that question. So you have to come up with a succinct answer. It needs to be at least a minute, not more than 2 minutes. And then obviously your goal is to try and eliminate some of the ahs and ums and stuff I'm probably still doing in this video, because I am definitely not perfect at this point. So that's number 2. And then you can also join as one of the roles. That also gives you opportunities to speak within the meeting, because you share. So for example, I've been timer a lot of times. So I time all, either the speeches or the table topics or evaluation section. So I time those pieces. So I get to share about my role. I get to share at the end of the meeting how everyone did. So again, that's another way to hone your speaking. So improved communication skills. Second was increase in confidence. So for me, confidence was a huge piece. I wasn't even looking for that. I was like, oh, I want to be a public speaker. Let me join Toastmasters. Confidence I've gotten because of that. Because I'm more confident in speaking and sharing and doing live streams that I would never have ever have done. Even last year, towards the end of last year, I was like, I would do an occasional live stream, but I was like, maybe not. And now I'm committed to live streaming 30 days during this phase 3 of Live Hard. And that's on my to-do list. And that's one of my 8 critical tasks. So here I am. So increased confidence, personal development, just like you would read a personal development book, Toastmasters is that, because it really pushes me to look at different options, look at different opportunities. Because a lot of times, maybe one of my fellow Toastmasters does a speech and she or he sparks something in me. They maybe talk about a book. Maybe I'll go read the book, or they get me to think, because a lot of the speeches are more driven around lessons and creating some kind of call to action at the end. That doesn't mean they're going to buy something or anything like that, but a call to action of like, here's how you can improve your life. These are the lessons I learned, and this is how you can improve your life. So that's really helped me as well, the personal development piece. And then constructive and immediate feedback. I mean, how many times have we gone out and spoken, or even like filmed a podcast, for example? We don't watch it. I hate seeing myself on video still today, but I do watch. Filmed a podcast, you send it off to the editor brings it back, then I watch it. I do watch it before I publish it, but I don't watch it till then. But by that time, I've like forgotten, a lot of times it's 3 or 4 weeks later and I've forgotten what I filmed about, like what happened, all those things. So in Toastmasters, you do get constructive and immediate feedback. And it's good feedback, meaning that they're going to point out things to work on. So they're not going to be negative and say like, oh, you suck today, or, you said like 8,000 ums, or you're not going to come off that way. They're going to be like, here are the good points, and here's a couple things to work on. And if you really want to challenge yourself, here's this idea. So it's really good because I'm always looking to improve in whatever I'm doing. So I get that immediate feedback and I can put that into my next speech or into my next live stream, for example. Also gives me some networking opportunities, just because you're seeing different people. I mean, you're in a different circle. So these are people, most of them I would never have met had I not been in this circle. Thanks for jumping in, whoever just gave me the heart. So most of them I would never have met had I not been in this circle. So that's another great opportunity for me. And then friendships come along with that. So over the weekend, Jack and I just had dinner at one of the fellow Toastmasters. Hey, Suzanne, thanks for jumping on. So one of the fellow Toastmasters' homes, and then another couple, he's a Toastmaster as well. So again, we had that friendship, and I've gone to tennis matches with her, the one that invited us over to her home. So it's fun. It allowed me to kind of branch out, create new friendships. And then stronger leadership skills. Again, I wasn't really going into Toastmasters to get that. I was like, oh, I want to be a speaker. And that's what I thought. But when you are stronger and more confident in your message and speaking out in public or speaking on a live stream, then it's so much easier to be that leader. So for example, I just went on another board in Delray Beach called the Delray Chamber Education Fund. I'm currently the vice chair. My chair was out of town last week when we had our meeting. So I took over as chair. Now, I've only been on this board since the beginning of the year. That's it. So I've been to 2 regular board meetings and 1 executive board meeting, and that's it. That's all I've seen. I know I've talked to some people about the kind of the background and things, but I got to lead the meeting. And at first I was a little nervous, but when I went in there, I was calm. It was like I had been doing this all the time, my whole life. And it was very easy to transition into that. So for me, that is worth it, 100%. And for those of you who don't know what Toastmasters is, after I've been rambling on about it, just to give you they're a nonprofit educational organization that teaches public speaking and leadership skills through a worldwide network of clubs. So they have clubs all over the world. And you can actually speak in clubs in different countries too. So you don't have to just speak in the United States. You can speak in different clubs. You can visit different clubs. Sometimes they'll post that they need speakers. Maybe it's a smaller club, or they need, roles. And so they need someone to fill in. So you can actually visit some of these other clubs, which is a great opportunity because you don't have to you're paying dues for your club. And the dues are so minimal. I think it's like under $50 for 6 months. And you get all this. So it's quite the deal. But you can join other clubs, and then their numbers on their website are their memberships approximately 280,000, 14,700 clubs in 144 countries. That's a lot of clubs. So I want to jump on now and just share this video clip. Cece Esview was one of my guests earlier in my podcast last year. So she's a photographer, a speaker, an author, a 3-time distinguished Toastmaster, but I want to share with you a little bit about her journey into Toastmasters and how she got involved. This is about a 2-minute video clip, 2.5 minutes, but it's kind of interesting how she came from behind the camera, which is where she was, to where she is now. And she's actually planning a TEDx. She's a TEDx speaker too. I forgot to say that. She's a TEDx speaker too. And now she's planning a TEDx event in South Florida with the idea of having more, like another one next year and another one following that. So she's gotten completely immersed in the speaking world, all because of one opportunity where someone said, hey, you need to share your message. And that's when she joined Toastmasters.
So, I have a funny story. You want to hear my Jack story?
Yeah,
Let me tell you my Jack story. So, Jack, who is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and again, he's filming this.
He's filming.
So he's on the other side of that camera.
Right. Many, many years ago, Jack hired me to do video with him in Orlando. Mm-hmm. And so I go and I'm standing behind the camera. There may be like 300 people or more in the audience. And Sharon Lecter from Rich Dad, Poor Dad is on stage. And she says something funny. I am behind the camera and I start laughing. I think silently. But Sharon Lecter looks at me and she stops what she's saying and she goes, oh my goodness, look at that camera woman. Now, all of a sudden,
all eyes are on you.
All eyes are on me. And I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my goodness. And Jack is standing behind me. And there's actually a picture that I'm definitely going to send you of this. And she goes, you need to step from behind the camera and be in front. That was a turning moment for me. That night I met her in the elevator. We ended up having dinner. Once she heard my story, she said, you need to learn how to speak. And that was the impetus for me to join Toastmasters and step out. And Sharon Lecter may not even remember that conversation, but it had such an impact on my life. And I always remember that had Jack not hired me, because I had the skills, because I had gone to school and I knew video and photography. And so you can only connect the dots backwards.
Right.
You can never connect the dots forward. So I always say, thank you, Jack. Thank you, Sharon Lecter. Had a huge impact on my life, so thank you.
And how long have you been in Toastmasters? No?
Since 2016.
Okay, so six years.
6 years, coming up on 6 years. And I'm a 3-time distinguished Toastmaster.
Three-time?
So, 3.
Wow.
So that just means I give a lot of speeches. I get evaluated a lot. Sure, all my Toastmaster friends are checking to see how many ums and ahs.
I know, I listen to these back and I'm like, okay, you say a lot of you knows. What the heck is that? Less the ahs and ums. I'm pretty good at catching myself there, but I somehow say you know a ton, and I have to figure out how to.
It's okay to have I don't want to say a crutch phrase, but it's okay to have something that you're known for. It is.
Yeah,
It
I'm not
is.
in love with that one. That's,
Oh, okay. So
I'm trying to block that out, but I got to figure out how to do that and still eliminate the other side.
Right.
That's from my interview with Cece Aspew. That is on YouTube, so if you want to take a look at that. But some of the benefits, and I talked a little bit about the benefits I actually received, but I just want to chat a little bit about what actually I've done with that. So I talked a little bit about the Delray Chamber Education Fund Board and chairing that, taking over as chair for that one meeting. Also, I started this podcast as a video. So when I started this last year in, I want to say April-ish, in 2022, I wanted to do video. I wanted to interview people in person. We actually started the interviews in my office, in our video studio, on green screen. They're edited and then used. And now I've gone to using Riverside. So I started with just local business owners, which was awesome. And then now I also offer interviews to non-local business owners that are in different parts of the country or even other parts of the world. Haven't gotten to that yet, but I'm sure it'll happen at some point. So it's an awesome opportunity for me to continue practicing speaking, even if I'm not in Toastmasters or at the meeting every Friday. So that's another thing. I think also even my networking has gotten better because I'm also listening more. Because the other thing that Toastmasters really teaches you is to listen. When you're doing that improvisational speaking piece that's 1 to 2 minutes, they're asking a question. You have to hear what that question is as opposed to think in advance, oh, what am I going to say? Well, you don't know what the question is. And then they call on you, so you have to formulate your answer very quickly. So now when I'm out networking, instead of, I know before, like I'd be nervous, I'd be talking to someone different, someone I didn't know, I'd be nervous. And have you ever had that instance where you're like, okay, what am I going to say next? And you don't even hear what the person says across from you. Now I'm very keen on what that person's saying and how do I respond to that person? How do I basically respond to what they are saying as opposed to, oh, I wanted to tell you this. That may still come into the conversation, but I want to know kind of how I respond to that. And speaking, and I did a live stream yesterday, and speaking can be a great way to market you, brand your business, all that type of thing, because it's a great marketing tool as well. So even a podcast that I film 45 to 60 minutes with and I'm filming another one in about 15 minutes, even a podcast, I can then use that for content across all social media platforms. So I may put it on YouTube and put the audios on the audio platforms, but I can actually use that content, break it up into smaller pieces and use it across Facebook, Instagram, all those different platforms. And that's the other opportunity that it gives me that a lot of times I wouldn't have necessarily. Otherwise, I'd have to create content. This like gives me content that I can actually use. So those are just some of the opportunities and some of the ways it's impacted me. The Toastmasters, you know, the leadership side, the speaking side, the communication, the listening, all those pieces. So if you do have any interest, I put in the description of this video how to reach out to me, but you can go to dreamplanstartgrow.com. If you have any questions, I'm not probably the complete expert on Toastmasters, but feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about it, or if if you want to know if it would be a good fit for you. Also, I also dropped the link into the description of my Toastmasters group, which meets on Fridays from noon to 1. We are Eastern Standard Time zone. So if you have any interest in checking it out, even on Zoom, you're not in our South Florida area, not a problem. As I said, we have people from different parts of the country, so we'd love to have you. Click on that link. You'll see the Zoom link in the once you hit that page. But I appreciate everyone jumping on here today. Thank you for those of you who have listened to the whole video or who are listening to parts of the video. I hope it was helpful. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. I wish you a great rest of your day. Happy Tuesday. Had to think about what day it was. Happy Tuesday. I will see you again tomorrow. Again, my name is Allison Turner. I am the founder of Bad Cat Media Group, home to Dream Plan Start Grow. Have a fabulous day.